The title of today's podcast is Bullies Suck.
Part 2. I should call it Bullies Still Suck.
We graduated high school. Oh no, there's another time in high school where we're playing PE, and T, the same guy that restrained me earlier, was on his soccer team. We divided our PE class, which was like 20 people or something, into 2 soccer teams. And I was on the opposing team, and T was on this Bullies team. So I talked to T, and T didn't like him either. I said, hey, why don't you kick him the ball, and I'm going to see if I can take him out the legs or something. Okay. He was all for it. So, but he had to make it look good because he was on the guy's team, right? I didn't want him to get in trouble. So he kicks the guy the ball, and I'm playing forward or whatever. I don't know soccer positions. And I run and get the ball, and I just take this guy out the shins. I mean, just completely not even going close anywhere near to the ball. Just take this guy out the shins. He goes down like a bag of dirt. Boom. He gets up, what the heck was that? You know, and blah, blah, blah. And finally I got red carded or yellow carded, whatever it is to get kicked out of a soccer game. That's what our PE teacher gave us, and I was done. Totally worth it, though. Totally worth it. So we graduate high school. We go back to the 10-year reunion. Me, T, J. J was married. Another guy, M. He was married. I think T and I were single guys. Anyways, whatever. So we come back to high school at the reunion, 10-year reunion, right? And everybody's trying to put on their best 10-year reunion. Oh, I've been successful. I've been doing this, you know. And there's only like 30 people there out of like 100 in our class. So we decided it'd be fun. This is a little epilogue, but we decided to, or side note, we decided to wear ties because none of us in high school ever dressed up fancy like that. None of us ever wore ties or anything like that. Polos, and most of us just wore t-shirts and jeans. That was pretty much it in high school. So we decided to wear ties just to throw everybody off. So we're wearing ties. Had nothing to do with the story. I just thought it was funny. Here's this bully guy, the guy that picked on me, the first one. I lifted the weights, the guy I took out in soccer. He's got glasses and stuff now. And so do I. And so I'm talking to him, and I was like, all right, it's been 10 years. I'm going to talk to this guy and see what happened. Well, apparently he'd been listening to me on the radio for a couple of years. So he knew what I was doing. And he said, I thought I saw him one time before that in the store, and he says, hey, listen to you on the radio. Anyways, we're at the 10-year reunion, and I basically turned around and said, hey, what have you been up to the last 10 years? Just typical question you'd ask anybody at a 10-year reunion. And he goes, I've been in jail. And I thought at first he was kidding, and then I found out a little bit later that night that he was not kidding. He'd been in jail most of those 10 years. I'm like, that's about right. That's called karma. There was other guys in high school that would pick on us, me and T, sometimes. They put notes on our locker, even like notes about homosexuality, which we were not, but they'd put them on our locker, and so everybody could see it. But these are the type of guys that wouldn't say anything when they're by themselves. They'd only say something with friends. I'd see a guy, I'd be coming out of the bathroom, he's going in the bathroom or something. I was like, hey, what were you saying earlier? And he wouldn't say anything because he didn't have his posse with him. He didn't have his friends with him. It was just him and I. He wouldn't say anything. So those type of guys. I could have gotten the ultimate backfire on that guy and his friend, who are the instigators. I was on the yearbook staff, and they put a picture in the yearbook together of them doing motocross or something. And there was some, space in the picture up in the sky. And I almost wrote, we were lovers, or something along that line. I was one of the last people to see that before it went to print. Think about that. It would have printed that way. That was a senior year yearbook. There was no chance to redeem yourself. It would have been that way the rest of your lives. It would have been the ultimate joke, the ultimate payback. I could have got him. I didn't do it. There was an editor. She might have saw it. One of my fellow students was the editor of the yearbook. She might have saw it. But frankly, we were kind of getting down to crunch time. It was kind of like, okay, pages together, looks good. Send it off. So there's a pretty good chance I might have gotten away with it. I didn't do it. I'm glad I didn't do it because I saw the guy years later, and we're both at career day at our old high school, okay? He's talking about his own business he owns. I'm talking about radio, which I don't own, but I did for many years. And we're kind of shooting the crap or whatever. And he goes, man, I was a totally different person back then. I was a jerk. And he's not really, he's kind of sort of apologizing for it. I mean, he felt bad about the way he was and the way he treated people and stuff. And so we kind of buried the hatchet there, and we were cool. Like, man, we've all grown up, So that was cool on that part. Coming back on Salmon Says, I'm going to talk about bullying in the real world. As a grown man, I've been bullied. Bullies suck. This is Salmon Says.
Salmon Says.
Welcome back to Salmon Says. Bullies suck. That's the theme of this one. Taking you through my adolescence and high school years. What about getting bullied as a grown-up? I have been bullied as a grown-up. I had a radio job years ago where the boss just, for whatever reason, did not like me. And he would throw his weight around. Now, keep in mind, this guy married into his job. So he was the COEEOOCO, whatever title was of the business, because he married the boss's daughter. And he wasn't working at the station when he married he was doing a different job, and she was doing. He just happened to marry this girl whose dad owned a radio station, and he became, the boss of the radio station. So he threw his weight around that way. He would walk in on a regular basis, and I wasn't one of his favorites for whatever reason, because I stood up to him. He wanted people to bow down to him, and I wouldn't do that. Those of you who know me, I'm not bowing down to anybody, unless you're God. That's it. So, I'm not that hard to get along with, but for whatever reason, him and I clashed a lot. And I remember one time, I had number one ratings, okay, in a 3-city area. Number one ratings in the afternoon on the station. And I was recording something off the air, and our mixer board in the radio station, in that station, there was 4 stations in the building, 4 I think, and that mixer board was one of the oldest ones I've ever seen. 1945 called, they want their radio mixer board back. That's how old this thing was. So there was no lights or anything on it really necessarily. You can only have to flip switches, so you really couldn't tell if you were on the air or not on the air, except for, your mic switch, you could tell. But I switched over and I was working on something, when songs are playing on the air, sometimes we're working on commercials or stuff in the background in radio. That's how it works. I just went over some railroad tracks. That's what that was. So keep in mind, I'm driving to work right now. Anyways, so I'm working on something off the air, like a commercial or something, and the music bed for the weather automatically comes on. Well, it automatically plays, and I'm supposed to just talk over it and then go on to the next song. Well, I'm not paying attention to what that's doing because I'm working on a commercial or something. It starts to play, then I realize what's happening, so I put the board back in manual. I jump on real quick and do the weather after the music bed's already, 5-10 seconds into it. He comes in, he goes, "What was that?" And I'm like, "Sorry, I was working on a commercial or something." He's like, "Well, don't let it happen again, You can be replaced at any time." And he used to tell me this all the time. I can get anybody in the street. He come in one time, I think it was right after that, same day even. And he goes, "I can get anybody off the street in here to do your job." At the time, I think we just had a baby. And so I was picturing the baby, picturing the wife, and I go, I'm going to bite my tongue on this one because I got other mouths to feed. If it was just me, it would have been like, okay, do it. Drop the headphones and walk off. But I had other mouths to feed, so I said, all right. Didn't do much. I took this guy's crap every day. I would come in. He'd get on me about being on my cell phone. I'm checking on my wife and my newborn baby. It's not distracting me from what I'm doing. He called the station one time as a listener to get a request in. Well, I said, I can try. I'm already full. Little did I know it was him. My phone lines were lighting up one time, and I was on the cell phone talking to my wife. Well, like I said, my hour was already full. My request hour, it was full usually half hour before the hour even came, to play the songs. So I wasn't answering the main lines because I was already full. I could be like, yeah, thanks. And I was talking to my wife, and I don't know, something's going on with the baby or something. And he comes in, he goes, "I don't want you using your cell phone at work." And he knew I just had a baby. Like, okay. So then on my cell phone, remember, I'm not supposed to use my cell phone at work. So on my message, on my cell phone, you call my voicemail. I said, "Hey, it's Salmon. If you need me between the hours of, 9 and 2, call me at this number. If you need between 2 and 6, call me this one. 6 and 9, call me at this number." And I was on 3 different stations in the same day. And that was the number I gave for the studio line. Because about 10 years before, my dad had a stroke. And so I was worried about his health and mom's health. Just had a baby at home, so if somebody needed to get a hold of me, you got to have an emergency number, right? Everybody does that. But since I wasn't allowed to be on my cell phone, I gave the station the studio line that I was on my cell phone, at that time, say, okay, if people need to get a hold of me for whatever reason, emergency only, they'll do it. Well, he called one time because I called in. I said, "Hey, I'm snowed in. I live 25 miles from work. I was snowed in." I said, "I'm not going to come in today because I can't make it. The roads are bad." He thinks you can make it in. You can try it. And I would have tried it, and I would have gotten stuck. And then I was going to call him and be like, "Hey, you want to come pull me out with your vehicle?" This is a guy that made his own mother, who was, 20, probably 25, 30, 35 years older than him, out there shoveling snow in the morning off the front sidewalk while he sits in his nice, warm, cozy office. That literally happened. I used to go in and grab the shovel from her, and I'm like, "You're not shoveling. You go inside, I'll do this." That's the type of guy we're dealing with here. So, anyways, one time he thought I could make it in. I didn't make it in. I didn't even try. A guy who lived 10 miles closer to work to me didn't make it in, who was my next immediate supervisor. He didn't make it in either because the roads were so bad. But, of course, my boss didn't believe me. He just thought I didn't want to come in because I stood up to him, so he didn't like me. He wanted people to kiss up to him. So we just continued not to get along. He used to make me come in every Saturday, whether it was a live broadcast or not, and just sit there for 4 hours. I was salary, so I was getting paid the same either way because we got to justify some of your hours. So I would drive 25 miles in to sit there for 4 hours, to drive 25 miles home and do nothing and kill my Saturday, you know. Now, if there was a live remote or something like broadcast, great. At least I came in and did something. Most of the time, honestly, between you and me, I would record my show on Friday for Saturday, and I would just sit there and watch movies or something. There was somebody else in the building, too, a gal I worked with, and he made her come in, and it was stupid for her to be there, too. She thought so, too. So she'd work on her stuff, and I'd work on my stuff. Sometimes he would come in the building to make sure we were there. One time he drove by, and he didn't see my car outside, so he calls me, and he goes, how come you're not at work? I'm like, I am at work. My wife dropped me off. She took the car to go get groceries. He's like, oh, okay. That's just what I dealt with on a regular basis. It was getting to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore. Coming back on Salmon Says, do I leave? Do I get away from the bully? How do I handle it? Bullies suck. This is Salmon Says. So I'm at the job, and I get the boss that bullies me all the time, tells me I can be replaced at any moment. Him and I have a meeting one day, and this is actually literally what was said in the meeting. He basically says, you've been here, 3 years? I said, 5. He says, you make this amount of dollars, and I said, okay. Actually, I made more than that, but I wasn't going to tell him that because then he might take me down, in salary. So I just said, yep. And he goes, well, I'm here to tell you that you're never going to make any more money than you make now, and you're never going to get a higher title than you have right now, which I didn't have any title. It was basically grunt. But you can work here as long as you want. So in other words, you can work here as long as you want. We'll work you to death, and we won't pay you any more, and we won't give you any more promotion, and we won't give you a title. You can just be our grunt for the rest of your life. That's basically what he said, not so many words. I said, okay. 2 days later, he promotes this guy in the building who doesn't do anything. It's total office space. This guy occasionally goes drinking with him. He hadn't worked at radio as long as I had. He kisses up to the boss. He's the boss's buddy. He got promoted to be the third in charge of the entire building. Okay, the assistant operations manager. Right then I knew, all right, it's time to get out of here. This is stupid. This guy gets promoted for not doing anything. I bust my tail. I was doing 3 radio stations locally, and then I was doing 3 out of market. So I was doing 6 radio shows a day for the price of 3. Plus coming in on Saturdays, my family time. For crap wages, it was time to get out of there. It was the hardest decision I ever made, but I decided to leave, and I took a different job, and I got out of there. And I got away from that bully. And I've seen him a couple times over the years since. And we kind of buried the hatchet. He was at a funeral that I was at, and he knew the guy, and I knew the guy, and so kind of buried the hatchet there. We've talked a couple times. He's offered me another job since then to come back, but again, it was just crap wages, and it was honestly like close to half of what I'm making now. I said, no, I can't do that, So I didn't do that. But bullies suck. So you're going to encounter times in your life where you're going to have bullies. Everybody gets them. I don't know why people bully. They have low self-esteem, low self-confidence. Hey, I have those things, but I don't bully other people to make myself feel better. Let me tell you, it's not worth killing yourself over a bully. It's not. And don't let a bully get to you, because that's the worst thing you can do. If you let it not bother you, do like I did when I was a kid. Tell a joke. Walk away from them, whatever. Because if you're miserable and you're suffering from what they're telling you, that's exactly what they want. That's how they get their jollies. That's how they make themselves feel better, by making other people feel worse. Most of the time, if you just ignore them, or don't let it show them that it's bothering you, or don't let it bother you, then they'll stop doing it, because it won't be fun to them anymore. But please don't end your life. Please don't hurt yourself or inflict harm on anybody else. If you have a bully and you're a kid, tell a grown-up. Pretty good chance they've been bullied too. If you're a person bullying, think about life. Think about the guy who I met up with years ago at the job fair and realized that he was a jerk and he apologized for treating people the way he did. What are you gaining by being a bully? Nothing. You're not gaining anything at all. Gaining status as being a jerk and nobody's going to like. Hey, and I'd be willing to talk to anybody too who's getting picked on by bullies. So email me and I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. But please don't end your life or hurt yourself because of a bully, because they're being stupid and they're jerk faces. All right? Again, bullies suck. This is Salmon out. Thanks for tuning in.
Make sure you are subscribing and tell me your comments. I love to hear from you.